The cycle of abuse. Let's talk about it. Have you ever looked at someone in an abusive relationship and you thought, why don't they just leave? Or better yet, maybe you yourself were in that relationship and you thought the same thing to yourself. It's a question that many people ask and one that you may have even asked yourself, but the answer is a lot more complex than you may think. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for this week's video. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Beany and I'm a trauma-informed coach that works with women who are struggling to get themselves out of toxic relationships. So it occurred to me that I don't think I've ever done a video specifically about what the cycle of abuse looks like. And so today we're going to dive deep into what that cycle means. I know that when I was in the midst of it, I had no idea that what I was going through even had a name. So to learn about how and why I felt so trapped, the psychology behind it, and most importantly, how to break free from it was absolutely everything for me. So if you or someone you love is feeling stuck in this vicious cycle, keep watching. You're not alone and there is a way out. Here's the deal, guys. Abuse isn't just a one big event. And for most, it's not a one-time deal. It happens in a cycle, a pattern that keeps victims feeling trapped emotionally, mentally, and even physically. And so I want to break down step by step what that cycle looks like so that you can begin to have a greater understanding of what has been done to you, what is being done, and because this is such a predictable cycle, we'll know what will happen in the future. Stage one. This is where tension builds. Let me set the scene a little bit here for you. The abuser starts to get irritable and distant. They may be argumentative, maybe begin yelling, swearing, even threatening. You as the victim, you can feel this shift and maybe you begin to walk on eggshells. You can feel this like imminent disaster about to go down. Your partner may be snapping at you over small insignificant things, maybe the way you look, speak, or even what you're wearing. As the tension heightens, your brain and nervous system begin to respond, and the first response will likely be what's called a fawn mode. And this is where you're doing anything and everything to keep the peace and avoid conflict, but all to no avail. Because here we go into stage two, the explosion. This is where the line has now been crossed and the abuse happens. And I want to remind you that the abuse that I am referring to does not have to be physical. It can be verbal, it can be emotional, or even financial. This abuse can look like screaming in your face, calling you names, throwing things, maybe punching a hole in a wall, taking your phone or your car keys from you, or even emptying a bank account. And then, of course, there is all the physical abuse that clearly goes without saying. So now you go from trying to keep the peace in fawn mode to what is called fight, flight, or even more common is the freeze mode. Your nervous system is doing anything and everything it can to keep you safe. Sometimes that means for you to fight back. Sometimes that means for you to flee or run from the situation. And sometimes that means that you freeze and you do absolutely nothing. And then finally, when it's all done, then you go into stage three, or what is called the honeymoon phase. After the blow up, the abuser may apologize, maybe promise to change, or even shower you with all sorts of love and gifts. Maybe saying things like, I didn't mean it, I'll never do it again, I love you so much, please don't leave me. And you as the victim are left feeling like you are hopeful that their words are true and that they will actually change, which only strengthens the trauma bond even more. And that's it. That is the cycle of abuse that is so incredibly damaging. Tension, explosion, honeymoon. Tension, explosion, honeymoon. This is the cycle that begins to rewire your brain. This is what makes escaping feel impossible. This is the cycle that creates that psychological trap in your mind and keeps you feeling stuck. So I say trap because that's what your brain begins to be conditioned to feel. So let's talk about what some of those traps are in your brain. The first and most obvious trap is trauma bonding. And this bond keeps you as the victim chemically addicted to the cycle that I just described. You have dopamine high of the honeymoon phase and then cortisol rushes of the tension and the explosion phase. Devastation, euphoria, low, high. Your brain is conditioned to believe that it needs this and that it can't live without it. Over time, your brain feels like this powerlessness at such a deep level. I guess you could say it's kind of like a learned helplessness. You internalize that feeling of, I can't live without. And because it becomes so ingrained in you, you believe that you can do nothing to change your situation. So much so that when you make efforts to stand up for yourself and you fail, you're more inclined to just give up. And not to oversimplify, but you see this in traumatized animals as well. When escape feels impossible, they just stop trying to escape. And so this cycle continues. Your mind continues to be conditioned to be fearful of that escalation, that building tension. The threats to hurt you, maybe the threats to hurt those you love, or even the idea that no one else will love you, begin to feel insurmountable. And so the victim stays because, well, leaving feels even more dangerous than staying. And so, as if that is not enough of an explanation of why a victim may stay, then you also have the isolation, the gaslighting that's added to it all. So not to mention, your support system has been cut off and you are questioning all kinds of things about your reality. Does my family still love me? Am I being too sensitive? Did I remember that wrong? Maybe I'm overreacting. You doubt everything you have always known to be true, which in turn makes it even harder to leave. Okay, so I've broken down what the cycle of abuse looks like. Tension, explosion, honeymoon, as well as all the psychological effects that go hand in hand with that cycle. Trauma bonding, learned helplessness, fear, isolation, not trusting your own thoughts. Feels helpless, right? It's not. If you are watching this and you're trapped in this cycle, I want you to know there is a way out. Or if you're watching this and you know of someone else who is trapped in this cycle, look down right now at the time and remember where you are in this video so that you can share this exact part with them. This is where you learn what needs to be done to break free from the cycle. Okay, here we go. Here are just a few ways that you can begin to break free, begin to find yourself again, and to get yourself onto that healing path. Step 1, recognize this pattern. Educate yourself on the pattern. You can't do anything about it if you don't know what needs to be done. Awareness is absolutely everything. Step 2, find your people. A support system. These people or person is what you need to feel seen and heard. Find at least one person you trust. A family friend, a coach, a family member. Your process will be that much harder if you attempt to do this all by yourself. Okay, step 3, document everything. Keep records not only for your own sanity, but for legal protection if needed in the future. Step 4, go no contact if at all possible. This is one of your biggest weapons in regaining your power. When you do this, you close all doors and windows, and the abuser no longer has access to you in any way. Not allowing yourself to be emotionally hooked anymore is your superpower. Step 5, begin mapping out your own healing process. This is exactly what I do with my clients. We make a customized plan together. I break things up into manageable tasks, and then I hold you accountable to those tasks. Working on things like education, mindset, maybe some self-regulating strategies are just a few of the things that are so important to your healing and rebuilding process. So if you are struggling in an abusive situation, whether it be physical or otherwise, I want you to hear this. It is not your fault. You are stronger than you know, you are more powerful than you can imagine, and you are not alone. There is a way for you to turn this toxic cycle into a cycle of positivity and healing. If this video has helped you in any way, the best way for you to support is to hit that like button and that share button. And of course, if you're not already a subscriber, hit that subscribe button as well. Please know that if you need help, I've linked some of my free resources in the description below for you. Remember, I'm rooting for you.